Let's open up this pit. My name is Adam Zuniga. I am the curator and host of KNOTFEST Beer Pit Live. Today we are talking and tasting with Jordan Hoffart, El Presidente and Distribution Manager and currently Plague Doctor, as well as Aeryk Heeg, who is the head brewer at Black Plague Brewing. That is in Oceanside, California. Hails to you, Jordan and Aeryk. Thank you for joining.
Hey, hell yeah. Thanks for having us.
Most metal. I've been looking forward to this. So KNOTFEST Beer Pit Live. It is a chance to talk beer with bands with breweries and everything and everyone in between. It's a chance for me to go one-on-one with brewers, and I learned something every single time as a result. And we also get to bring our subscribers in from the KNOTFEST Beer Pit to ask you questions in real time. And tonight is very special because they're not only subscribers, but they are cast and crew and friends and family from my other show, the Six Most Metal Breweries. You can kind of see that behind me here. So, all in the family and all about Black Plague. Before we get into Tony Hawps IPA, I want to give a shout to everyone out there in Twitch land. This is Pims91, Captain Rock 99. Hello and hi to you. Thank you so much for joining. I'll be watching the chat as we go. Let's get to Black Plague. Let's talk about the beer, the brewery. Let's talk about you. I want to know, Jordan and Aeryk, how did you get into craft beer or brewing for that matter? When was Black Plague founded? And because of all the imagery around the beer, the messaging around the beer, I think speak to just the philosophy behind the brewery as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty cool story. My former life, I was a professional skateboarder for about 20 years. So built a lot of relationships, one of those being Mr. Tony Hawk himself as well. We rode for Bones Wheels together. Being in that industry for as long as I have been is pretty much my entire life up until we started Black Plague. So just being in that circle and having a progressively a newfound love for craft beer, especially in the early days. I started homebrewing in my garage, and I would have a couple friends come over every Sunday, and we'd have a bottle share. And so that's really where it kind of the inception started. Just having beers, talking about the beer, playing around with like the beer, no temperature control in my super hot garage. They didn't come out the best, I can tell you that right there. But I was getting a little bit older. I had my second kid, and it was like, okay, skateboarding's awesome. My knees suck. It's time to figure out what the next chapter is in my life. What else do I love to do? And I was like, well, I love to drink. I don't know if that's a bad thing. But I love, craft beer. And the more I dove into the culture, like the parallels between skating and craft beer, the mentality, the artistry, the core, very similar walks of life. So it's something I resonated with like super early on. And it was something like, these are my people. These are like-minded people. Stoked on the community. Stoked. You're not really like, it's not like corporate land where you're like, fighting the next guy. It's like you're basically brewing, just like you're skating, to brew the best version of. You're only competing against yourself and it's a community behind you to also, share techniques, trade secrets, if you will. And to reach a common goal, to be the best brewer you can be. And it was the same with skating. You're not really competing against anybody else. You're competing against yourself. And so everyone's it's more of like a camaraderie, friendship, community-based vibe, which was something that was super intriguing to me, especially being engulfed in that for so long with skating. So the more we talked about it with my partner, Jared, it was like he was in a place in his life he was in the corporate world. He was a manager over at Sony Entertainment, working on the Sony View. I think the streaming network was based off the PlayStation. So that was like kind of their version of Apple TV.
Nice.
We kind of saw the writing on the wall. It was like, all right, this is like the next 4 years. I already see it. Like conference meetings, talk to this team, develop this, hit these numbers, this, that, and the other. And he was just like, dude, I'm done with this. He's an artist, like by nature. Like he's a phenomenal artist. He does all of aside from this one, actually, he does all of our other artwork for all our merch design, can design, and that's where he lives. Like that's what he wants to be. So it's like, dude, let's nurture this. Like, get out of that corporate setting. Like, let's do something fun that we're passionate about, something you want to get out of bed for and work hard for. So at first it started as kind of like, well, that'd be cool. Yeah, we could do that. And then it was like, well, fuck. Maybe we should actually take a stab at this. Like, why aren't we doing it? Like why wouldn't we have the same kind of shot as anyone else to succeed in this space, kind of speak. So we thought about it, and we're like, all right, well, we need money. And so I was like, well, I know a lot of people that might be down to share the same kind of vision, same kind of vibe, that would believe in something like this, So we put a business plan together, and I started shopping it around to my network. And you know what? Honestly, at first I thought it was going to be like a really tough sell to get people on board. But the more people I talked to, the more people are just like, this is fucking rad. Like, I'm super down. And we got the capital with also putting our houses up as collateral and getting a bunch of bank loans as well. But we got it going, and we put everything we had into it, and we white knuckled it for probably the first 2.5, 3 years, and we started pulling up, and now she's starting to take off, and we're super fortunate to be here, and this is kind of like the next chapter in our lives. Super excited about it.
That is most metal. Incredibly,
is it metal? I hope it's metal. Feels metal.
It's so well said, and so much that I relate to. Just that moment, that understanding that like craft beer was a community for me when I didn't necessarily belong anywhere else, couldn't work a regular job, did not want to go into a corporate environment, could not sacrifice or give away my time for something I didn't love or something I didn't believe in. And also just realizing all my other interests, passions, hobbies, growing up, people that shared those, be it heavy music or be it skateboarding or whatever else, were finding like purpose and fulfillment and fucking employment like in craft beer. So we might have come at it from different angles, but really from a similar place. So I'm really grateful to be here in this moment with you, and to know that both home brewing and skateboarding are like in just the DNA, the fabric of Black Plague.
Yep.
Because, obviously you said you have a few years under your belt, but a lot of people are hearing about the brewery more and more and wondering, who are you? What are you? Where did you come from? And I think that's the answer right there. And that is most metal. Eric, if your role is head brewer, just you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into brewing professionally.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it all started, I moved to San Diego for college in like 2009, and quickly discovered a place called Stone. Maybe you've heard of it. And kind of shifted my whole brain to like what beer could be, kind of thing, and became a giant fan of beer over the next like 5 or 6 years. And it was like 2015 or 16. My older brother bought me a Mr. Beer homebrew kit, which is like the worst homebrew kit you could possibly get, but it piqued my interest to a point that I just started spending every dollar I had on building out a massive homebrew rig in my garage. And then I was in sales prior to this and met them while they were building out the brewery, and I was selling them all their construction equipment. And
there's a story in itself.
Yeah, and I kind of started just showing up and not really selling anymore. And then eventually it got to the point that I was like, hey, I'm a home brewer, and started bringing them beer, and they liked it. And then when it came time for them to hire, they gave me a job just cleaning kegs. And like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months in, I took over as head brewer, and it's just been me ever since. So kind of just right place, right time story for me.
Yeah.
Couldn't ask for a better situation, like-minded people, all that good stuff.
I love it. These are the stories I think everyone wants to hear, man. You worked your way up from washing cakes to head brewer. So that is also most metal. I'm going to give a shout out to Gara Official. What up to you as well? And 97 Maza, our returning chat champion. It is good to see you here, my friend. So we're learning more about who Black Plague is and what their roots are and where they came from. And I will share that I think I originally connected with Full Metal Burgers on social. It just started popping up, or Instagram started feeding it to me like burgers with pentagrams on it. And that led to Black Plague. And they facilitated an introduction to you in terms of getting into the beer pit. So I'll say, again, there are no accidents.
No.
Love those guys.
And if you ever do another podcast, Most Metal Burgers, they've got to be number one on your list because
that's an absolute deal.
Most metal, dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Eating breathe.
Yeah. But, shout out to Full Metal Burgers.
Absolutely. Nice. So yeah, they're basically our food partner at this point. They started as so I don't know about other parts, but in San Diego specifically, like food trucks, rotating food trucks is just part of the culture, more or less. And it's like we all work off a type. It's called Type 23 beer manufacturer license. So we're not really licensed as like a kitchen. So it's but people, when they're drinking, they get hungry and they need food. So they started in the rotation of a food truck. And then pretty much right when the pandemic hit.
Yeah, it's like a month after.
Yeah, it was like a month after, huh?
Started putting it all together.
Yeah, we started putting it all together. So, no, it was actually like right before. That's right. And it was like, hey, we're kind of, a lot of people drop out. A lot of people are flaky. I mean, shit happens, whatever. But it was nice to they basically stepped up all the time and they were very consistent. And it was like, hey, what if we just made this like a permanent thing? And like, I'm done scheduling 7 different food trucks every day. And like, especially finding ones for the middle of the week, beginning of the week, where it's not just like live events, concerts, and it doesn't bring out like the craziest crowd. So it was like, we need someone consistent. We need someone that's reliable. And they were just like, yeah, fucking down. So ever since that date, like 7 days a week, Full Metal's here. And then we're actually looking for our second location, and Full Metal will be our full-time kitchen over there as well. So
even better.
No accidents.
So if someone comes to visit you in Oceanside right now, Full Metal Burgers are there on site 7 days a week. And do you have some other satellite tap rooms as well already? Or are you looking for a second location as we speak?
Yeah, we're actively looking for a second location. We have our eyes on a spot in North Park. I don't want to jinx it, but basically like just outside of downtown San Diego. And, we'll basically have a game plan for that one that we'll stamp and copy with 5 other locations if everything goes according to plan. So,
okay.
Yes, sir.
Here's hoping. Hail Satan. So let's do this. Eric, I'm going to ask you to maybe move just a little closer to Jordan, just so I can see you. Half your face is hidden behind the plague doctor there, the black plague can we have on screen. I am getting thirsty, and I can relate to the heat in Oceanside because it's also fucking hot in Los Angeles right
now.
Ooh, it's brutal. I'm going to crack this beer open in a second, and I'm going to bring our subscribers in to talk about it. But before we do, maybe just tell me a little bit about the story behind Tony Hawps IPA, the collaboration with Birdhouse, and how you and Birdhouse and Tony Hawk himself all kind of work together. What's the relationship there?
Yeah, I'll kick it off, and then you want to get into the beer. If that works for you. So I've known Tony for about 15 years. Again, we rode Bones Wheels together. So I had the opportunity to, meet the Birdman himself and grow that relationship. So he's actually one of our partners with Black Plague. He believed in it from the get-go, and he was in a place where he was like, yeah, I'm down. I believe in this. Let's go. So with that, it was shortly after that we were like, hey, well, I mean, let's do a beer. It only makes sense, And it was pretty easy. It kind of just fell into place. He was like, yeah, I'm in. Let's go. He's a beer fan. So honestly, it was kind of like a verbal / napkin like deal that we put together. And then put him in touch with Eric, and they went through all the hop selection, and you guys basically collaborated on something that we thought would be approachable, but still full of flavor and had like a full body that would, really make an impact, I guess you could say. So Eric can take over from here.
Definitely. So it's like when we were creating the recipe, I wanted to make a beer that, like, say you just finished at the skate park, you're a skateboarder, and you wanted to drink a beer. I was hoping to make an IPA that a skateboarder would be able to drink after a full session of skating, which I would say is pretty hard to do, but I think I did a good job.
You did a good job.
I think I did a pretty okay job. And being that Tony's like a legend, and we all know who he is. I wanted to use some legendary ingredients from the craft beer industry. So like some iconic hops, Citrus, Centennial, Amarillo, Simcoe. But I wanted to use them and present them in a way that's a lot more modern. So I think, when you're tasting the beer, you're going to notice that it's a lot juicier than it is bitter. It definitely gives you a lot more flavor than, let's say just like Stone IPA would, because it's so bitter, right? And this beer is much juicier, much more flavorful. No disrespect to Stone, by the way.
Love their beer. Stone.
But that's just, when we talk IPAs, like that's the easiest place to like start a conversation. So just wanted it to be super approachable, kind of something that maybe your everyday beer drinker wouldn't like know about, but could still drink. And then something that's still true to the craft enough that your everyday craft beer fan would want to drink as well. So tried to kind of bring it into the middle and create a really nice like mesh point for the two industries to come together.
That's metal. I love it. I love that you're positioning like a West Coast IPA as a session beer, as a refreshing beer. This is going to get controversial because we've talked a lot of shit about IPAs in the beer pit, on the beer pit live. But that comes from a place of love, and like West Coast IPA was and is my first love. It's what turned me on to craft beer in the first place, and it was Stone IPA for that matter. So there's a big shared history here. And of course, ever since, like IPA has become like the single biggest category in the craft beer market. So there's a lot of competition out there. I think what you're saying about using classic ingredients to make a more modern beer is really intriguing. So I can't wait any longer. I'm going to crack one open.
I'm way ahead of you.
Yeah, you're like, you're at least 3 deep. I think I'm going to bring in our subscribers here as well. Give me just a moment. Let me add them to the feed and give them a shout. And we are live. So I want to welcome Brian Wingett, Derek Ingber, Alex, and Tom. These are all, like I said, friends and family, cast and crew from the Six Most Metal Breweries. If you look closely, Brian's in just about everything we've shot and has lent a helping hand wherever he can. Derek Ingber is a true partner in Beer and Metal. He is our co-executive producer and our editor. Alex has been to all our events, so thank you for being here and continue to fly the flag. We get you on camera whenever we can. Tom has done sound and set photography and is a man of many talents, and again, all united by the same spirit that we are here with you, Black Plagues. So thank you all for joining.
Yeah. Cheers to you.
Cheers, guys.
All right. Real quick, Brian, just tell us who you are and where you are. Derek, Alex, Tom, do the same. Just let us know where let people know where you're coming from.
I'm a friend of Adam. We go way back. We met in the craft beer scene in New York probably over a decade ago, I want to say at this point. Around February, I moved down to North Carolina to help open up a bar and restaurant that should be ready to go this fall.
Sick. Awesome. Congrats, dude.
Thanks.
Excellent. Derek?
Short story, I met Adam at a beer festival many, many years ago, filming it with our director of photography, who's not on here today, Jeremy Batchelor. And so we caught up with him at a secret Megadeth show, and the rest is history, as they say. So the last few years, we've been doing Six Most Metal Breweries and doing beer parodies and with all these guys involved, and it's been a great time. So, yeah.
Ooh, I will drink to that. Alex?
Me too.
Yeah. Alex, tell us who you are, where you are. Tom, please do the same.
We're in Derek's apartment.
We're in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
14th Street.
Yeah. Yeah.
14th Street, New York City.
For almost 10 years, and I met Tom through Derek at one of the 6 MMB screenings.
Love it. Hell yeah.
Okay. And for you, Tom?
I'm wearing a lot of hats these days, but I work in production, background in photography, love of audio, and a big appreciator of beer. And I have you to thank for turning me on to things that taste way better than what I was drinking before.
There we go. That's metal. That's metal beer.
Yeah.
All right. Hell yeah.
Survive the travels.
Yeah. Yeah. So cheers. I cracked into it. I poured it. I want to walk through the beer, and maybe Eric, you could kind of tell us, like, just step by step, based on what you brewed. Let's talk about the aroma, the appearance, the flavor, and the finish. And Jordan, also, I'd love it if you could just tell us more about the label art, because I know you said good friend and coworker is involved there. So let's talk about Tony Hawps IPA, and then let's see what the rest of our crew thinks about it.
Cool. So, I mean, just starting off, the aroma you're going to get is obviously very citrus forward. You're going to get a lot of orange, like a very heavy orange. There's obviously going to be pine in there. And then I think there's definitely a lot of like grapefruit quality as well. The flavor you'll get up front is going to be pretty resinous, but not bitter. So there's not a whole lot of bitterness. There's no bittering addition at all. All the hops come in to play in the last like 5 minutes of the whole process. I do what's called a hop stand on it. So I chill the beer down to a certain temp and then add all my hops to keep most of the bitterness away. Again, to be very approachable, very juicy, very smooth. We are an unfiltered brewery, so there's always going to be a little bit of a haze. It's not a hazy beer by any means, but being an unfiltered brewery, it just kind of comes with the territory. So again, no bitterness. So up front, very smooth. On the back end, you're going to get more of that resinous quality, I think, as far as my palate is concerned.
What do you put in on the 5-minute edition?
So the first hop edition that comes in will be Centennial, which I think is giving you most of the resinous, minor bitterness that is there. Everything else would be Citra in the Whirlpool, and then in the dry hop, it's Amarillo and Simcoe.
So again, I couldn't love it. So I smell it. It is immediately. It reminds me of that first moment I had with West Coast IPA, man. Mm-hmm. The fact that you don't use any hops for bittering, there's no bittering charge in the boil, is that's fascinating, because all these hops you've used, like Amarillo and Centennial and Simcoe, I mean, they're dual purpose, right? Like, they're rich in acids and they're rich in oil, so you can use them for bittering or aroma or both. But for you, it is clearly all about the aroma, which jumps out of the glass. It's handsome in the glass. I love it that it's hazy, but it's not thick, it's not turbid. And tell us at home, for everyone at home, just what do you mean when you say resinous? Because that resin, that's a word that gets thrown around a lot. Dank is a word that gets thrown around a lot. And I relate to it. I feel it on my tongue. But how do you actually describe it? What are we talking about here?
It's definitely, for my stance, it's definitely a mouthfeel thing. You feel it kind of coating your tongue, but then it also will present itself almost as like a piney, like, richness of the hop oils.
Yeah.
So you feel that like resiny quality that hangs around on your tongue, and then you'll start to get the flavor behind it, which for me, again, presents itself as that nice, like, rich pininess.
Oh, it is weight. It is, I mean, it is metal. Like, I've always tried, maybe resinous is the perfect word for that, because it is texture that I feel. Yeah. And man, you fucking nailed it. What about, like, the malt bill? Like, is there anything in here other than is it just like 2-row base malt? Is there some Pilsner malt?
This is as like basic of a grist that you'll come across. It is about 90% 2-row, 5% white wheat, and that's like it, and then some sugar to make up the rest. It's a little bit of dextrose to dry it out. But for the most part, you're just 2-row white wheat for body and a little bit of character, and the rest is all hops doing the work.
Okay. And again, power of suggestion is everything. But I want to move to Brian, to Derek, to Alex, to Tom. It's one thing to say it; it's another thing to taste it, to smell it. What are you getting from this beer? Like, let's just move across the screen. What do you think?
I'm getting like orange marmalade and cantaloupe, cereal grain, like honeyed toast, like everything I want to eat in the morning.
So it's not just like eating. It's in the morning to start your day.
No, when you said it was a West Coast IPA, it was like, awesome. I'm so glad that they're sort of having a moment and coming back. That as much as I enjoy drinking all the hazy, juicy, sweet IPAs, I like something with a little bitterness to it. I think it's got a great malt backbone that's propping up these hops. At 6.5%, it's still pretty potent, but I feel like I could just rip through these. Also, I feel like a lot of beers are showing up in 16-ounce cans. 12-ounce cans, welcome spot in the fridge. You can fit more of them in there. They fit
I'm
the
really
different
glad.
can dispensers and condiment shelves. You can make them work everywhere.
I'm really glad you brought that up. What was some of the decision, like the deciding factor behind that? Why 12-ounce cans? Because it's all about the 16-ounce in the market right now for IPAs. So how did you make that call?
We had a 12-ounce rinse gauge. Hey, honestly, we're converting a bunch of our brands to 16-ounce just because of that. Like, obviously, the perception, anyway, where we're at is a 16-ounce 4-pack that has this premium perception. So, can't argue that. I like holding a pint. You get a little bit more room with the artwork. And from what I've heard, a 12-ounce can 6-pack is what your dad drinks. So we've been getting a little bit of that, which definitely persuasion power, but suggestion. So I take that with a grain of salt, but I think that's more or less what the market here anyway is fueled by, is that perception. You have the pint, the 16-ounce pint looks, the 4-pack format just gives off this premium kind of vibe to it, more or less. And so that is what it is. But we started with 12-ounce cans, 12-ounce 6-packs. All of our brands were 12-ounce 6-packs. And then because we doubled down with Tony, and we have placements in a lot of chain accounts, so Alversons, Vaughn's, Pavilion, Sprouts, that SKU was authorized, and they have resets once a year. So we were able to buy in bulk, which brought our costs down, but we had to, commit to about 205,000 cans. So that also, it plays in a factor as like why we're keeping it at 12 ounce for now.
Sure.
But, we're malleable. The market speaks. I don't want to be, strong-headed and say, no, this is going to be it. Like we all saw what happened to Bombers, unfortunately. RIP Bombers.
Yeah.
But, that's just kind of where we're at. But
I get it.
We're definitely considering 16 ounce. That's for sure.
It's like understandably so. To Brian's point, it is just great to see there's still a place in the market, if not a huge comeback for West Coast IPA. And you could probably make the same argument for 12-ounce cans. But time will tell. Pims91 out there in Twitch land just wants to validate everything you just said, Jordan. Love the honesty. So there you go. You're speaking the truth. I want to move to Derek and Alex and Tom. Again, what do you smell? What do you taste? How does this beer read for you?
What I like most about West Coast IPA is when it's made on the West Coast. I feel like on the East, they overcompensate for a lot of what they expect a West Coast to taste like. And it kind of just, my palate doesn't like it. So I kind of like when it's made there, and this is good. So nice and smooth.
So
it's not overly piney. I hate when they try to overcompensate with the pininess.
Right.
Yeah. So truth be told, I know that Derek has a preference for dark beers. He's not a big IPA fan, and that's why I really wanted him in on this tasting, because if you can make an IPA that satisfies Derek, you're doing something right. What about you, Alex? What do you think? How do you feel about IPAs? How's this beer?
I like IPAs. I am a big fan of sours. This beer, it smells like peanut butter and jelly, and I love peanut butter and jelly. And I usually have a stout with peanut butter and jelly. I would have this beer with peanut butter and jelly.
That's really interesting. So that goes
new one.
Yeah, all taste, all perception, all senses are different. And if you perceive peanut butter and jelly, not only is that valid, but really interesting and really unique. So unless you're drinking out of Derek's, I don't know, did you have a PB&J smoothie or something earlier?
I did, but these were all right through the dishwasher this afternoon. All these glasses.
Yeah. I love it. After hearing the peanut butter and jelly comment, so Pims91 says, I must admit, I'm not a beer drinker, but I'm really tempted to give it a try. Pims91, go to notfestbeerpit.com and we can fix that. Or you can go directly to Black Plague. I mean, if you're in California, it's available here. They also ship directly to consumer in the state. And we'll talk about that as well, because it's some of the most like effective fucking packaging I've seen out in the market. Like, I really love all the branding and the artwork and all of it. Before Tom, what do you think? I know you don't discriminate. You have IPAs, but you like a little bit of everything. So how do you feel about this beer?
I also have a food association, but it's a lot different. It reminds me of like some really nice truffle oil fried French fries.
Whoa. So
really light, well done. Like the pininess might be like a little bit of oregano on there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, to me, that just so you kind of think and relate in terms of food. And if you were eating with this beer, I mean, I'd say that would be a perfect pairing. Like, unless the hops and the truffles are just like way too much together. But otherwise, I mean, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, here for it. Dude, I'm down. I want them now.
Yeah.
Now that you said it. PBJ, some truffle fries.
Well, this is great. This is great. There's a lot of love in the room. Brian, Derek, Alex, and Tom, they are here to ask the tough questions. They would not hold back. But so far, 6 for 6, 666 out of 666. Like, we're on a roll. And I'm glad we're converting Pims91 out there in Twitchland over to beer. Let's do this. Like, you kind of hinted that, okay, you're an unfiltered brewery. So I want to talk just a little bit about the difference between West Coast and East Coast IPA, because everyone's kind of addressed it a little bit in their own way so far. Just what do you see as the difference between them? How do you approach both styles? Because I know you do a little bit of everything at the brewery. I've seen a variety of styles available. So just tell us your take on them both and your approach.
So for me, my take on like hazy East Coast styles, I think is a little bit different than, maybe some of the other craft breweries that you've come across who are making like really thick, viscous, almost what's that word I'm looking for?
Murky.
Almost like a murk, right? And so I'm nothing against those. I drink them, but that's not really what I prefer to make here. So I try to kind of bring some of my philosophy from my West Coast IPAs into my hazy IPAs. And so what I mean by that is that I aggressively hop my hazy beers in the kettle. Nothing on the like bittering charges, no bittering, but everything is done in the whirlpool, but I use a lot. And so there's a lot of people who I think keep their hops out of the kettle altogether on their East Coast and hazy beers and will just exclusively dry hop those beers. I still like to have, some IPA feel to my hazies. So most of our hazies will still present a little bit of a bitter, like a little bit of a bitterness, but nothing over the top. And then obviously my recipe formulation changes pretty significantly between the two, because for me, I like to really mess with my water when it comes to my hazy beers. And so I kind of do the opposite of what I would do for my West Coast IPAs when it comes to my water, which helps present the beer as like a more smooth, silky, like that. I think we used to call it cloudy feel, where it's like really
pillowy.
Pillowy, like a really pillowy mouthfeel. But
not
it's
the most metal term, but
yeah.
Pillowy sounds good.
I think that helps present it more like a traditional East Coast hazy IPA. So for me, again, I still like it to have some West Coast qualities, but maybe a little bit dumbed down. So
no lactose.
No lactose, though.
No lactose. Man, you struck a chord with that. There's nothing I hate more than lactose in IPA. And I can't even drink like milk stouts anymore, just knowing it's there, honestly. Like, it's just, I don't want it anywhere in any beer, anytime, in any place now. I used to be able to appreciate it subtly in different ways, but way out of control. What you're saying, though, I want to make sure that makes total sense to me. And I want to make sure everyone at home understands it, because so we're drinking a Tony Hawps IPA. You kind of took like the really aggressive, like moth to the flame bitterness out of the West Coast IPA style, and you do that because you don't boil down the hops. You don't add significant hops to the boil to extract all the alpha acids where the bitterness comes from. They're all late addition. So there you manage to preserve more of like the aroma. We could also say maybe some of the pillowy qualities of the hops there, just the more like aromatic qualities, you know. Whereas you reverse engineer it a little bit with the East Coast, like with the New England style. You're saying you will add a bittering charge, or at the very least, you will add some hops to the boil.
So there's no bittering charge at all, but I hop our hazy beers more aggressively at the end of our boil than I would our West Coast IPAs, if that makes sense. So there's no bittering charges here on basically any of our beer, except our lagers. But when it comes to the hazies, I basically double what's happening to the West Coast IPAs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a much bolder version of those. And then obviously they're heavily dry hops. Every now and then we'll do what's called like knockout hops, where we're filling or we're dropping hops into the tank before we ever fill it, which also provides more aroma, more flavor, and just all that good stuff. So
hell yeah.
No bittering though across the board on any of our IPAs.
That's bold. That's bold because, like, again, this still definitely reads as West Coast style. And again, maybe it is just the resin you were talking about, that like texture, which kind of feels like a trip to like the Evergreens or something, you know, like, I mean, that is, like I said, very comforting and very familiar, but you're right. It's not aggressively bitter. Do you experiment? Do you typically use like the same like hop varieties in both East Coast and West, like are what's in here, some of the classic big C hops and just the better known American hops? Like, is that what you like to use in the East Coast style as well?
No. So when it comes to like our East Coast and our hazy beers, I will generally try and utilize like more fruit forward hops. So think like a Nelson, Citra obviously is still in the mix, Mosaic, some Idaho 7, in one of our top selling beers, Idaho 7. Well, the beer is called Hazy Scandal. Idaho 7 is like the main player in that beer. So still kind of playing in that same realm, but always looking for a more fruit forward like hop to like lead the charge.
Okay. While we are geeking and nerding out here a bit, and before we move into talking about music and like whatever else anyone wants to, Brian, Derek, Alex, Tom, do you have any questions for the brewery about the beer itself?
I do. I was perusing your website at blackplaguebrewing.com and going through the different beers that you make, and I see there's a lot of different pop culture influences. I see wrestling, I see Hellraiser, one of my all-time favorite horror franchises, and I see two beers that, like off the cuff, their name fits with Black Plague. I see Bring Out Your Dead and Not Dead Yet. And I'm wondering if somebody's been watching Monty Python.
I hope so.
Yeah. I grew up on Monty Python, actually. That was an ode. You'll hear it here first. That was an ode to my father, actually. Huge Monty Python fan. Bring Out Your Dead. He actually put me on to, I guess, what would you say, traditional English like humor, British humor. So I grew up on it. I thought it'd be funny. I thought it would be a nice little nod to my dad. It's kind of like I grew up in Canada. My whole family's up in Canada. I moved down to the States to pursue skateboarding when I was really young, fresh out of high school. And so I don't get to see them very often at all. So it was kind of just a tip of my cap to my father, and making sure like he got to feel involved to some degree. And then Not Dead Yet was actually he got remarried to his wife Dorothy, and they actually got married to that song. So I thought it was a cool play on Not Dead Yet to follow up with a hazy from a West Coast version. I shouldn't say West Coast version. Sorry, hybrid American IPA. There we go. Bring Out Your Dead. So you have your hazy version, and then you have your American IPA version. So it just worked out, and with the branding and the influence, it was a call. So it was good. And then our partner Jared was able to hammer out some artwork that I thought was right on. And it's funny you should bring Out Your Dead, because that is one of the beers that's in transition now from 12 ounce to a 16 ounce can. And if you excuse me, I'm going to go run and grab and give you a little preview of the 16 ounce can, because we're redoing the artwork all together. So
let's see it.
This is the first time hearing this. Here we go.
Wow. All right. For everyone watching out there in Twitch land, this is for you, Pims91. You heard it here and saw it here first. Eric, does this mean you're a Monty Python fan as well by association?
Yes, but you know what? I shamefully will have to say I've only seen it once. So it might have been a little bit before my time, but it's okay. I've checked it out. I remember the coconuts.
I gotta educate these kids. You know what I mean? Oh, here you go. So here's the new 16-ounce can. Bring out your dead. We have
Most Metal.
The skull in the coffin, opening up.
Yeah.
So that was, that was your.
Yeah, that was Bring Out Your Dead was the first recipe, my first ever professional recipe here at Black Plague. It was the first time that they gave me the keys to the Ferrari, as I like to say. Let me have some fun.
So.
Pims91 out there says, love the artwork. If we can get it to the UK, they are already sold. We're working on it. 36 states and growing, but we're got to see how we can expand our international distribution footprint in the beer pit.
Put us in contact with a responsible importer / distributor that knows craft beer and keeps it cold.
Hell yeah. Most Metal, most important.
Here's what you're referring to, Brian, is the Not Dead Yet. This one just came out in cans like less than 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, brand new.
Yep, there you go.
All right.
I love that there's the personal nod in there. Thank you for sharing the little behind-the-scenes story on the impetus for it. That's awesome.
I appreciate it, man. Hell yeah.
Jordan, the new can, also brought out returning Twitch chat champion. I still am not sure exactly how to pronounce this. It kind of looks like Chalky _. I'm just going to say Chalk. And you got a fire sign when you held up that new can. So clearly doing something right. I opened up another Tony Hawps to celebrate that because, I mean, if you want to know how much of a loser I was in high school, and I'm proud of this, but I spent most of my Saturday nights watching Monty Python reruns on PBS. So
there you go. Hey, no shame in that, man.
And that was a big part when we spoke earlier about, what it was you grew up on, what your interests were, your passion, your hobbies. I mean, again, I found a place for all of that in craft beer. So I'm willing to bet there's a lot of beer nerds and beer geeks out there that also spent their Saturdays watching Monty Python. So, Derek, Alex, Tom, while we're still talking about the beer, you have a question for Black Plague.
Oh, so if you can't get it through the KNOTFEST Beer Pit, where else can you get Black Plague if you're on the East Coast?
Well, good question. We're actively working on expanding our distribution. We have direct-to-consumer available for the District of Columbia, which we just set up. So if you're in that state, you can order directly from us, and we'll ship it out to you. We just did this year with Brew Pipeline. We did a test, basically Tony Hawps and one of our other brands, a test market where they're basically a master distributor, and then they work with distributors in each state. So we got in Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio. I don't know. It's been a little while. So keeping in contact with Nebraska and New Jersey. Jersey. So we're looking to expand our footprint. The hardest thing is that, as you guys know, like craft beers and pasteurized, it doesn't travel well. Yeah. So finding a distribution partner that respects it as much as we do and wants to take care of it with the refrigerated shipping to the East Coast. It's not cheap, unfortunately. Rates continue to go up. So it's a bit of a task to figure out how logistically you can get it over there responsibly so that it's a proper representation of what we intended it to be, while still everyone being profitable, unfortunately, at the end of the day. So it's a little bit, but then you start seeing more like West Coast breweries, like Stone, opening up East Coast facilities just to make it a little bit more tangible for the West Coast, the East Coast population to enjoy it and enjoy it the way it was intended to be enjoyed. So we're working out the kinks. We're still pretty small, but hopefully we can get it over there responsibly sooner than later. So stand by.
Again, very well said. I mean, all the values are in the right place. I think Derek brings up a good point. It must be incredibly frustrating for most breweries knowing you don't really have control after your beer leaves the brewery.
Yeah.
You can do your best, you can try your best, try to source good partners and find people that will keep it cold and try to deliver as brewers' intention, but it is challenging. Also, I got a message from Chalky out there, question mark. Maybe it means Chalky's not right. Maybe it's Chalke, kind of like a European pronunciation. But in any case, Chalke says, hell yeah. So we're still on the right. We're still hitting chord in the right note here.
Right.
Alex and Tom, question for Black Plague about the beer.
I mean, I honestly, I found this story about how you started the brewery really inspiring. And I guess I would ask a pretty general question, but like, what was the hardest part about starting a brewery?
Man,
Oh, God.
probably like hindsight, the ambition is there, but the reality of being extremely underfunded, that would probably be like you have this idea of what it's going to be, especially not really growing up in the industry or having a ton of experience prior to the idea. I think is the most challenging part. So it consumes your life. We were working no live 16 hours a day that first year. Like you're delirious. We had 2 jobs. I would tag off with my partner Jared, and after he did a full day of Sony, he would come in and work the bar all night with his wife. My wife was behind the bar. You work with consulting companies, construction companies that are like, hey, here's what we want to do. And then you see the price tag and you're like, that sounds awesome, but we have about half. So what can we do there? You know what I mean? And it's like, well, we can't. So you guys are on your own. So that's when it kind of became a real thing. But what keeps you going is you just took money from Tony Hawk. Like, I'm not that guy. Like, I'm not gonna lose that. Like, there's no way. You know what I mean? So it's not an option. So you just get up and you grind it out, and you fill those voids as they come, kind of thing. So white knuckling is an understatement. Those first 2 years, from starting to build out to signing the lease, to signing you have personal guarantees on everything. Like your house is up, like your family's on the streets if this doesn't work out. You know what I mean? So it gets you out of bed, it gets you working. You have no other option. Once you realize that, it's kind of almost easy in the sense that it's like you just get up and go. Like there's no debating, there's no whining, kicking, screaming. That's all out the window. It's not even an option. So I would say that was mentally probably the difficult part, but at the same time, it was probably the most rewarding because prior to that, it was a test to what you're made of. Like, you're here once, make the most of it, enjoy the good times, and battle through the struggles. And it's an opportunity to come together and be a community more since, in that time more than ever. So our community, when we opened, it was very overwhelming. Seeing the support from everybody, like just thinking about it, like you kind of start, getting emotional about it. It was affirmation that this was supposed to happen and that it's sustainable. Because you just never know. You're basically rolling the dice with everything you got, and but that's okay. Like I'd do it again.
Hell yeah. If you can say you'd do it again, it was all worth doing the first time. Jordan, those are, again, really inspiring and also really humbling words, because there's more than 7,000 craft breweries in the US now. I mean, that's still like a very, very small market share compared to big beer out there. But I think a lot of people have the idea if they open a brewery, it's just going to be a party. And
Right.
it is hard work and it is heavy labor. And I mean, it's just really good to hear you speak about the process and to be able to kind of meet you and know you on the other side here, having done it.
Well, and not to harp on that too much, but it's like it came down to the point where we didn't have the funding to continue with these contractors. So it was basically like bootstrap. We're cutting open the floors. We're doing it's owner builder at this point. We have the inspectors coming. We're opening the floor. We're cutting out the concrete. We're laying the industrial plumbing. We're laying the mats. We're laying the slope, cellar, trench drains, all that stuff. We're building the cold box with like a bunch of skateboarders that are like, all right, what are we doing today? You know, we're renting equipment, we're getting in there, you know what I mean? When we're kind of learning on the fly. And then you have, you know, doing rough electrical, doing shit you'd never think you were ever going to do.
Sounds like you can relate, Eric.
Hey, I was just selling them stuff. That was it. I'd come in and see them working, and I'd be like, all right, well, I got to go. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
I'd be like, hey, you got Simpsons bolts to bolt these tanks down? And be like, oh, yeah, I got you for sure. Best price in the county.
My old boss is watching this.
But
It didn't happen.
with that, it's like we've done it now. So it's like anything, it gives you perspective. So it's like anything that goes wrong, it's like not this code red freak out. It's like, dude, well, we put it in, like we know how it operates. Like, okay, something's wrong. Like, do this, you know, shut that off, this, calm, we're all good. Call the right people. We know what to do. If they're not available, like we'll get in and do it ourselves. It's not the end of the world. So for that education in real time and that experience in real time, it's like you could go to school for 20 years and not get that.
Yeah, wise words. This is even kind of beyond beer, outside of the context of craft beer. If anyone has ever put everything on the line for a passion project, they can relate to everything you just said. You know.
Really?
Alex, any questions for Black Plague before we move on to talk about music and metal a little more?
No questions asked and answered. Looking forward to seeing you in New York.
Yeah.
There you go. You just got the New York blessing right there. So the demand is there. Okay. I think before we move on, and I want to just know a little bit more about like what music influences the brewery, but we're getting some more love from Chake out there. There's been some laughing, some fire, the metal horn. So yeah, we're still trending correctly. I just want to go back to like, obviously Tony Hawps Birdhouse IPA. I mean, it's obvious why you made it as a partner, as kind of like a benefactor, man. I mean, it makes perfect sense. But tell us a little bit about the imagery, the design of the can, the label art, the Plague Doctor, and again, just to back up everything we're saying. I mean, I have your box here with your mission statement on the bottom, you know, and you talk about it. You represent the misfits, renegades, underdogs, rebels, rule breakers, nonconformists, hustlers, DIYers. I mean, this is everything you just said. All those who strive to be better, stand out from the crowd, and follow their true passion. I mean, I know craft beer is getting a lot of questions right now. It's being reevaluated in a lot of different ways, you know, which is warranted. But I'll say again, like I always found it to be one of the most welcoming and inviting communities where I felt like I could live and work when I didn't feel like I could live anywhere else. And everything on your box here and everything we've talked about so far really validates that. So just speak to it again a little bit more about the label art, the branding, dying for a beer make friends.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that slogan, especially like find a way or make one, is always something that we live by. And I think that developed as we went through it. I don't think that was the intention. Like we fell in love with the story of the Plague Doctor, the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages time. And we loved that the Plague Doctor had this misconception as this evil, like death, like horrific character. But if you look up the history of the Plague Doctor, they were contracted by the city to treat everyone that was, and they would go into these plague-ridden territories and then have to self-quarantine for 40 days. I mean, that's a hero, in my opinion, that takes courage. It takes, whether you're poor, rich, it didn't matter. They would go in there and they were seen as kind of like a quasi semi-doctor that kind of learned on the fly. But for the mythology at the time, or the doctor philosophy at the time, it's like our temperament was balanced by the four humors: phlegm, bile, blood, and urine. Urine. So yeah, exactly. Right, so it was a pretty outdated, way to think of things. But they would go in, and so as far as like Plague Doctor is a very misunderstood character, I guess is what I'm saying. And then, when the plague struck out, there was, especially in England, the community came together and there were the pubs. I don't, at the time, I don't know if they were called pubs, but it was like watering holes where people come together, drink ales as an attempt to kill the bacteria that was going out, and the community would come together to mourn their lost ones, protect themselves, come together, support each other. And I think that message really resonated with us, and that's kind of what it's all about. And as we progress with technology and just society in general, I think, especially with all the computers and TikToks and all the rest of it, it's like we're disassociating ourselves with the community and face-to-face time, and that's something that is really important to us and resonated with us. That at the end of the day, it's like you live once. It's all about following your true passion. It's all about coming together. It's all about community. It's all about supporting each other. And, we just want to spread that message that, don't forget about, what's really important in life, because once we're all automated, it's going to be a tough time figuring out your identity and what your purpose is. So, it's just something that's always struck a chord with us and one of our core beliefs. So we try to voice that as much as we can.
I will say it again, wise words, and above all, like a very positive message. And I think, I have to ask, hearing all that, just I try not to talk about coronavirus and COVID like too much on the show, because like we are obviously trying to move forward and move on, and tap rooms and venues and everything are reopening. But what were some of the, I would imagine, very unique challenges to Black Plague, being Black Plague during a pandemic? Was there any silver lining there? Like,
I mean, the challenges are pretty self-evident, I feel like. But, that was never our intent. It's like we didn't really our intention was a niche market. Like, it's a polarizing image. It's a polarizing brand. It sparks attention, though. And I think, like, whether you love it initially or you hate it initially, you're intrigued by it and you want to know more about it. Yeah. So I think that worked in our favor. And then, along the lines of the pandemic, it kind of amplified that even more. So it was like, Black Plague, oh, coronavirus, that's hilarious, like, this is awesome. Or it was like, ooh, Black Plague, like, coronavirus, like, I'm not touching that, But it's like, you're hoping that the common sense and the logic behind it is like, well, we're obviously not, like, injecting the Black Plague into the beer, and what, you're trying to voice the story a little bit more about the plague doctor and the history behind that, and how it's actually, they're trying to help. So, and put him in that light of more of a hero and a doctor, than as opposed to like this dying figure. So it's polarizing, but I think the pandemic in a way really helped and brought more attention to the brand, if I'm going to be honest.
Okay. Well, that was I was wondering if there was any silver lining. And I mean, I'll say again, because of like the panic and all the misinformation that was out there. I mean, there was definitely a guilty pleasure when I heard that, people were wondering if like Corona beer does cause coronavirus, because who needs another fucking Corona at this point? There's too much good beer out there, but I can see how it would present equal and, like you said, obvious challenges to Black Plague brewing. So I am glad you survived. I am glad it ultimately made you stronger, and I think you're unstoppable at this point.
Hell yeah, I appreciate you.
Let's talk about music a little bit. And I know that cast and crew and friends and subscribers are all going to have something to say about this, but I just want to know what the connection is for you at Black Plague between craft beer and heavy music. And I don't know if you actually consider yourself a metal brewery, or we can talk about rock, we can talk about punk. Just tell us what kind of fuels your day, and what do you see as the connection between beer and music?
Yeah, so for me, like I love music. I've been going to shows since I was like 13. I have an older brother, worked in the industry, so it's like he's dragged me to every type of show possible. But for me, my connection between beer and music, it's actually just kind of like what gets me through my brew days, if that makes sense. So it's like when I was still in my garage, I had compiled this like 6-hour, 7-hour playlist of like everything: metal, hardcore, pop punk, rap, like everything, right? So for me, music means the world to me. And when I'm here working, it's kind of what gives me solace and peace and like the power to just keep going through. Like today is probably like 90 degrees in the brewery. I'm standing next to a 200-degree boil kettle, dripping sweat, and I just threw on some music and just helps me zone out and just keep pushing, just keep powering through. So for me, like I don't necessarily have like a crazy like philosophical answer to give you about like how music and my beer is related, but like it's a big part of my day every day and gets me through my brew days. So
It is
definitely a huge part of my life.
Who's your go-to though?
Go-to right now, I mean, it's been like a year, but the new Acacia Strain album, Slow Decay, has gotten me through like the last 13 months of my life, I'd say. Like an everyday listen, but you know, metal, hardcore, that's like my lane, little deathcore here and there.
Yeah.
That's more my lane.
I mean, I think that's a very good answer. You know, everyone has some parallels and crossovers to this question, but I mean, brewing is hard work. It is hot work. It is heavy labor. It is a workout. And whatever gets you through that, again, deathcore, any manifestation of metal, any manifestation of hard rock, any manifestation of heavy music. I mean, we all need that. So that makes perfect sense to me. Jordan, what would you say? Does it influence? Does heavy music influence the brewery itself, the brand around it at all, or are you on a personal level for that matter?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm more of a traditionalist in the sense of Metallica, Slayer, Pantera. That was my era. I actually played in a Pantera cover band when I was in high school. I wasn't even in high school. Yeah, we got kicked out of for excessive swearing. But we were a Pantera tribute band called Panterrible.
Yeah,
fucking terrible.
Well, that is
As a drummer, just learning how to do the double bass and everything is so good. I got thrown out so many festivals. I'd like to think we ripped, but probably didn't rip too hard. But yeah, that was my generation. Slayer always resonated heavy with the skate culture. Some of the most iconic parts, Pat Duffy and Plan B was, to a Slayer track. I've been to 3 or 4 or 5 Slayer shows down here in San Diego, so that was always one that resonated heavy. I hate to say it, but like seeing the album cover with the Slayer like cut into their arm, like
yeah,
I did it. I did the same shit. My mom thought I was crazy, but I was like, "You're so fucking sick! Like, what are you talking about?" And she was just like, Satan!"
Yeah,
That's my era. I'd say as of recent years, Power Trip has probably taken over a majority of the vibe of the brewery. I love that they bring like the thrash, kind of like the old school, what I grew up and almost like reinvigorated it, and I just fucking love what they're doing. So that'd be the extent of
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Amen.
Cheers to Riley.
Oh, Riley Gale, rest in power. I'm from Texas originally, so I have my own bias against Texas in its own ways. But once I really heard Power Trip, I was like, okay, this is the next fucking manifestation of thrash. Like, this is current day metal. I love Power Trip. And so much love and respect for Riley. So I get it, man. I think those are both excellent answers because, Eric, again, it kind of fuels you through your day. And Jordan, I mean, it's what you grew up on, so it's influenced you to present day. I mean, I understand both those. I am curious from some of our cast and crew and subscribers here. I mean, you all have worked with me on so much of this. So Brian, Derek, Alex, Tom, what is your answer to this question? Like, what do you see as the connection between craft beer and heavy music? In 30 words or less.
How much time do we have, man?
For you personally, before we went kind of deeper into this context, just kind of tell me what it means to all of you.
I mean, both are pursuits that reward innovation, ingenuity, and at the same time, collaboration and compromise. That's an oxymoron. Like it's greater than the sum of its parts, and it's rewarding for anyone that's involved.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Derek, Alex, Tom, curious. What do you think?
We've heard from all the people we've interviewed over the years at the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest and whoever we worked with, it's, extreme music needs extreme beer, and extreme beer doesn't have to be big and boozy. It could still be, low ABV and still be extreme. And so I just like the craft that goes behind the beer, and it's not just your corporate standard garbage. And, so just
no corporate beer, my friend.
And watching a show at the same time and enjoying them together is what brings it together.
I make a lot of music myself.
Yeah.
And we live in an apartment right now where we don't have AC. We're on the line, like, maybe we should use AC, but it does affect the beer pairing when I'm making music. Like, I've been drinking a lot lighter beers as I compose in these summer months.
Totally. So in that respect, again, it is tool, it is fuel, it is inspiration. What do you think, Alex, as you have gone deeper into this world with us? What do you see as the connection between the two?
I am all for those low ABV beers. As a little lady, I just want to say that. So.
Yeah. So that is just backing up, again, the idea that, like, beer is meant for drinking, beer is meant for a show, beer is meant for a session, beer is meant for practice. If that is the connection right there, that is absolutely valid. Hell yeah.
I think it's enhance the experience overall,
Yeah, definitely. Tell us what's playing most recently in the brew house. You cited a little bit, Eric, but what's been overhead in recent days as we are in peak summer in Southern California?
I've been on a huge Bring Me the Horizon tip. Like, I can't turn it off recently. I'm a big fan, obviously, of like their older, when they were actually like a metal band or like a death metal band.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've obviously gone to like this new whole world of like alternative rock. I don't really even know what to call Bring Me the Horizon anymore, but I recently just discovered their live like record they put out. I think it was last year or maybe the year before, and I can't turn it off. I think I run that show. It's a full show, and they play with a freaking symphony. I don't know if you guys have seen it or listened to it. Unbelievable, but like that is in my headphones every day right now. It's like the first thing I listen to. I'll run that whole show front to back, and then from there, like I said, I'm a big hardcore fan, so like the new Turnstile record is about to drop, and I've been bumping that, like all the singles they've been dropping, just anticipating that record to drop. So like for me, that's where I'm at right now, is those two back and forth. And obviously there's so much more that comes through all the time. Like I said, music is like one of the biggest parts of my life. So it's like I jump around everywhere, but if we're talking like the most recent shit I'm like stuck on, it's Bring Me the Horizon again, and then the new Turnstile that's been coming out.
So I've never heard the live album from Bring Me the Horizon, but I know what I'm doing tonight.
It's on YouTube too if you want to watch it instead. It's whew.
All right.
It got me. I'm like, whoa, I've been telling everybody about it. So
yeah, hell yeah. So real quick from the chat out there in Twitch land from Chake, we've heard this is good. We've heard, I think their answer to the connection between beer and metal, craft beer and heavy music. It is both are made with love and made to enjoy. I will second and third that. Pims91 said that, I think it was a little bit further back, but that made me giggle when I first heard the virus was called Corona, LOL. That is worth an LOL. I'll still say it. 97 Mazza joined the Beer Pit, notfestbeerpit.com. Thank you always for the shout, 97 Mazza. And one simple sound, just hell yeah, and gave you the horn and seconded everything you just said, Eric. So I'll take it. Jordan, anything else you're listening to in real time? Because it sounds like you also do a little bit of everything and all things at the brewery. So what gets you through that day?
Well, I'm on the phone most of the day, so I don't get to. I'm making sales and distribution calls these days, so I don't get to hang out on the. I don't get my earpods in too often, but I honestly say a throwback to Sabbath and a Motorhead. Honestly, are probably the two that I've been listening to a lot lately. Brings up a lot of nostalgic vibes. And. Again, very intertwined in the skate culture. There's a lot of iconic video parts that were released with both of those bands. So I would say, that would Generally be my day-to-day right now. Just the classics. Yeah. Just I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm sorry. I'm stuck.
No, I mean, nothing to be ashamed of. And like, there is, we always want to find new forms of expression, but there is truth in like music you were listening to as a teenager, beer you were drinking as a teenager or 21 or whatever the case may be. This is stuff that influences the rest of your life. So yeah, I relate to that. That brings us to present day. And before we wrap up, I definitely want to talk just about the future of Black Plague. I mean, you all are clearly working hard. So I just want to know, what else does the future hold? What else is coming up? You talked about expansion a little bit, but tell us also just some of the beers that are on deck. What does the future hold for Black Plague?
Yeah, great question. So we actually just went through the release calendar for the rest of the year. We have some fun projects going on. We're actually I might be pulling the cat out of the bag right here.
Might be.
We have a collab with Nigel Houston, who's I guess Tony 2.0, the modern day Tony. We have a collab with him coming out. Should I show the
another first for the beer pit?
You guys are getting like the first.
All the exclusives. Here we go.
So it's pretty metal as far as the design goes.
It fits the pod. We're good.
Yeah. The new goat. So we have a hazy IPA going out with Nija right here, and he's got the goat.
That is metal.
Yeah. So it's a hazy IPA, and it's going to be very Nelson forward in the dry hop, which isn't cheap. So
I believe it. Got to import it from New Zealand. So hey,
I
pulled that off.
You pulled that off. It's a bitter. Goddamn. It was worth it. It's worth it. It's totally worth it.
That's so exciting. So you continue to mix it up, and then is it fair to say Tony Hawps is a flagship, and you brew this year round?
Yeah, absolutely. He's it's an all year round. Like I said, it's got probably the most distribution points out of all of our brands, and it's the only beer we have in the chain retail account space, I guess you could say. So
that in itself is bold, because again, like the current state of craft beer, it is driven by hype and what is new day to day, week to week. So to even have a flagship or something you produce to be regularly available, again, most metal, very bold, and keep it going. But it's great that you continue to innovate and come out with cans like that and everything else.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of got to do both. From what we realized, it's not the easiest thing to do, and you obviously you want to establish a core that your brand can identify with, or your following that they can grow and love and count on, that always be there. But at the same time, because I don't know if it's because it's oversaturated, but the shiny new toy is always there. Everyone wants to see what else you got, what's new. We've had that, but it's new. So it's like you're basically playing both, which can get pretty heavy, I guess is the word.
I mean, as being like we're a distribution brewery first, right? So it's like anytime that we can find gaps in our schedule, we're trying to put out something new. If we have a little 2-week window where I could fit in a smaller batch somewhere, we do it, because we know that that's what people want. And me being like a brewer and an artist,
you don't gotta quote that.
You are an artist. I believe that.
I find a lot of peace and
gotta own that.
In brewing new beers and doing new things and writing new recipes. For me, the funnest part is recipe formulation and development and tinkering and having that kind of fun. That's
that freedom.
That's what I got into beer initially for, was because in my garage I could do whatever I wanted, use whatever I wanted, and so coming here, those opportunities are few and far between, but when I get those opportunities, I reach, for the stars. I'm trying to put out something that I want to drink personally. So hopefully that translates to our consumer, and, we go from there.
I'm sure it does. And are you all set up in such a way that, so you have production, you brew to scale for something like Tony Hawps, but then you do have like a smaller pilot system that you can experiment on?
So we have no pilot system. What we have is 3 smaller tanks. So that we have 3 20-barrel tanks that give me the ability to R&D some stuff. So we definitely got to take a risk, obviously, with a 20-barrel batch, but
It's a full 20 on the pilot systems. A full 20 barrel batch. It's pretty. It could be overwhelming,
No
Sure.
doubt.
Sure. So, in other words, I mean, anything you brew, the stakes are high.
For the most part. I when we do our like new beers and stuff, I try not to step too far outside the boundaries for that reason. But that even staying inside the boundaries, there's a lot of fun that you can have. So I'm never bummed on it. You know what I mean? Like I get to do what I want, and they give me the freedom to do what I want, and I think that's really all that matters.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Just kidding.
Yeah. No. You have the freedom to express yourself, and you also have the fun of, again, working within what I consider to be a most metal brand, whether you all necessarily consider yourselves a metal brewery or not. Like that doesn't even matter. Like I said, dying for a beer, I think pretty much sums up everything Black Plague is about. So we are so grateful to know you and giving us your time and your talent here in the beer pit. And I definitely want to give you the last word here. So before we do, to cast and crew of the Six Most Metal Breweries out there, Brian, Derek, Alex, Tom, is there anything you want to say out there in Twitch land, out there to fans of beer and metal, to Beer Pit subscribers? And I just want to say thank you, because it's that much more interesting. I know you all, I trust you all, but this way, Black Plague doesn't have to spend an hour and a half just looking at my face and listening to my voice. So it really means a lot having you here. And the same goes to all our subscribers out there, whether you're in the chat or live on screen, like Eric Masunis has been in previous conversations. It really does make a difference. So thank you all. Brian, Derek, Alex, Tom, is there anything else you want to say?
It was a pleasure. It's great to get to meet you guys. You make some terrific beer. Looking forward to trying the rest whenever I get out west or when you send more out east. And so the rest of my compatriots, I'll see you when I'm back up north again. Stay safe, drink responsibly.
Never.
Derek, what about you?
No, you go. You said.
I was going to say, in these darker times when I've lost a lot of friends just from they're moving or scattering, doing different things, beer has been one of the consistent things that keeps people together. Like, I told you we were going to another brewery in another state. You're like, bring me back some beer. And I just brought it to you. And I'm glad we're doing this. It brings people together.
Yeah,
absolutely. Beer makes friends. Hashtag, but yeah, Black Plague said it as well. No, Tom, yeah, exactly. I could not agree more. I think beer has kept us all together over the last year plus now. And we keep being able to meet in these ways, be it virtually, but we're still meeting, we're still face to face, we're still talking, we're still having a dialogue. So thank you for contributing. Alex and Derek, what else? What do you want to say to Twitch land out there? What do you want to say to Black Plague? What do you want to say to me before we go?
Is there any way Tony Hawk to do a beer parody of Gleaming the Cube?
That would be the only way to get him to do it.
Yeah, I think you might be on something there, dude.
That's awesome.
Got it.
Hey, I'm gonna write that down, dude. You never know.
It's a great idea. Shit.
You nailed it. Man, I knew you had something in your pocket. That's great. That's great. And Alex, otherwise known as, I think, at Unhappy New York on social. I hope this conversation made you happy.
Yeah, great conversation. Nothing else to add. Thank you. Yeah, great.
No, thank you. And it is so good to see all of you. So on that note, Black Plague, Jordan, Eric, do you have anything to say to KNOTFEST Beer Pit fans and subscribers out there?
Honestly, just thank you for the opportunity. Like, I know you guys have more than enough people to choose from to do these kind of things, so we feel honored, honestly, and grateful for all of your guys' time. Yeah, I don't know.
Definitely. I mean, again, thank you. Reiterate what he said, and I hope Tony can get you up off your couches and circle pitting in your living rooms.
Let's go.
Let's do it, boys.
Yeah. The pleasure and the privilege is all ours. So it is so good to have Black Plague in the pit. To everyone out there listening or watching on Twitch, Chalk sent us one more fire sign.
Okay.
I think Chalk is going to stick. So that's how it is for the rest of these. But I really enjoyed this. Like, you all really opened up. You gave us a lot of good information. You spoke from the heart and your black soul at Black Plague. We are thankful for it. So I'm going to say until next time, let's do it all again. I've got one last sip here before I open another can. We will see you again in the pit. Deal?
Deal.
Cheers and hails. Thank you so very much.
Hell yeah, boys and ladies.
And ladies. Humans.
Humans.
Yeah, everyone.
Humans. We're all humans. Cheers.